ሰላም እንደምን አላችሁ የዚህ ፕሮግራም ተከታታዮች። ዛሬ ጥሩ ቪዲዮ አዘጋጅቻለሁ። ይህን ቪዲዮ ሁላችሁም እንድትከታተሉት በአክብሮት ጋብዛለሁ። እንግዲህ እንደሚታወቀው በዚህ ቻናል የተለያዩ ቪዲዮዎችን እያዘጋጀሁ እገኛለሁ። በዚህ ቪዲዮ ዛሬ የምንከታተለው ምንድነው ቴትራፖድ ወይም ደግሞ ላንድ ቨርተብሬት የሚባሉትን በተወሰነ መልኩ ለመዳሰስ እንሞክራለን። እንግዲህ እንደሚታወቀው ቴትራፖድ ወይም ደግሞ ላንድ ቨርተብሬትስ የሚባሉት በፕላኔታችን ወይም በምድር ላይ ካሉ ኦርጋኒዝሞች በጣም ከፍተኛውን ድርሻ የሚይዙ ወይም ደግሞ በብዛት ከሚገኙ እንስሳቶች መካከል ቴትራፖድ የምንላቸው ናቸው ማለት ነው። እንግዲህ ይህ ቴትራፖድ በዛሬው ፕሮግራማችን የዚህን ኦርጋኒዝም አመጣጣቸውን እንዲሁም ደግሞ ቅድመ ኦርጋኒዝም ወይም ደግሞ አንሴስተራቸው ምን እንደሆነ ለማየት እንሞክራለን ማለት ነው። ከእናንተ የሚጠበቀው ማስታወሻ እየያዛችሁ እስከ መጨረሻው ቪዲዮውን መከታተል ይኖርባችኋል ማለት ነው። የተለያዩ ቪዲዮዎች አሉ። እነዚህ ቪዲዮዎች ለእናንተ ይጠቅማሉ ተብለው የተዘጋጁ ናቸው። በጣም ግልጽ በሆነ መልኩ ወይም ደግሞ በጣም ለእናንተ በሚገባችሁ መልኩ በተቻለ መጠን ተቀናብሮላችኋል። ከኖት ባሻገር ወይም ከኖት በተጨማሪ እነዚህ ቪዲዮዎች ማየት ወይም መከታተል ተጨማሪ እውቀትን ለማዳበር ይረዳል ማለት ነው። እንግዲህ ስለ ቴትራፖድ ከማውራታችን በፊት what is the origin of tetrapod and how these organisms are moved into the land or the dry land የሚለውን ማየት አስፈላጊ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። because without study or without knowing their ancestor we cannot justify the organism in different ways. So how these organisms are originated ይህ እንግዲህ መሰረታዊ ነው ማለት ነው። ማለት ምንድነው? ኦርጋኒዝሞች ከመጀመሪያ አመጣጣቸው ምንድነው የሚለውን ማየት ያስፈልጋል ማለት ነው። እነዚህ ኦርጋኒዝሞች ቴትራፖድ የምንላቸው አመጣጣቸውን በተወሰነ መልኩ ለማየት እንሞክራለን ማለት ነው። the origin of tetrapod and movement onto land ማለት ይህ ምን ስንል ምንድነው? ኦርጋኒዝሞች ከመጀመሪያው በደረቅ መሬት ላይ ወይም ደግሞ ተርስትሪያል ላንድ ወይም የብስ ላይ አልነበሩም ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ አመጣጣቸው ምንድነው ማለት ነው? ከውሃማ አካላት ወደ መሬት እንደመጡ ያመላክታል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ከውሃ ወደ መሬት ትራንስፈር ሲያደርጉ ሲሸጋገሩ የተለያዩ ለውጦች ወይም ሞርፎሎጂካል ፊዚዮሎጂካል and different adaptations should be carried out in this organism. So how these organisms are adapted to the terrestrial land or the dry land ሚለውን እናያለን። So there are a suite of challenges associated with terrestrial living that the first tetrapod had to overcome. So as you see here, this included the phase that water supports a fish body, but air does not support this organism. So they need to modify their structure. So let's see what modifications has been developed ሚለውን እናያለን። and also ምን ይመስላል የነሱ አንሲስተራቸው ምን ይመስላል ወይም ደግሞ አኳቲክ የነበረው አንሲስተር ወይም አኳቲክ የነበረው ቴትራፖድ ምን ይመስላል የሚለውን እናያለን። እንግዲህ አኳቲክ ኤንቫይሮንመንት ስንል ውሃማ አካላት ላይ የሚኖሩ ኦርጋኒዝሞች እና የብስ ላይ የሚኖሩ ኦርጋኒዝሞች በተለያየ መልኩ ያኗኗራቸው በተለያየ ፊዚዮሎጂካል አክቲቪቲያቸው የተለያዩ ናቸው ማለት ነው። So to step on land, organisms need to able to work as well as breathe. So መጓዝ ይኖርባቸዋል፣ መተንፈስ ይኖርባቸዋል and ሌሎች ሞዲፊኬሽኖችንም እንደዚሁ ማከናወን ይኖርባቸዋል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ አርኪኦሎጂካል ስተዲዎችን በማየት እንዴት ኢቮልቭ እንዳደረጉ እናያለን ማለት ነው። እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው it is a fossil record So a fossil in this rock has been dated around 360 million years ago and amounts to an early tetrapod creature with developed limbs. So እዚህ ጋር እንደሚታየው ይህ ፊንገር ፕሪንት ነው ወይም ደግሞ ቴትራፖድ ወይም ፕሪሚቲቭ ቴትራፖድ የሚባሉት እንዴት አኳቲክ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ላይ ያስቀመጡት ፊንገር ፕሪንት ወይም ደግሞ አሻራቸው በፎሲል ሪካርድ የተገኘ ነው ማለት ነው። ሶ እዚህ ጋር እንደምትከታተሉት ወይም እዚህ ጋር እንደምትመለከቱት ፊንገር ላይክ ስትራክቸር ያለው ነው። ሶ ዚስ ኦርጋኒዝም ኦር the first tetrapods were known by Acanthostega. So this is the most known primitive tetrapod or the first tetrapod which is adapted in on the land or terrestrial environment for the first time. So they are closely related to a group of fish, lobe-fin fish. So these are most likely similar with fish like Stenopteron, and Stenopteron is one of a group of fish, so which is similar with Acanthostega. So Acanthostega is a primitive tetrapod. So these tetrapods are raised from the fish ancestor. So the ancestor was fish. So in this case, tetrapods are evolved from a group of animal known as the Tetradomorpha, which in turn evolved from an ancient Sacropterygian fish around 319 million years ago. So in this is known by the Devonian period. So their forms were transitional between lobe-finned fish and the four-limbed tetrapod. So they have limbed. So they have limb, as the name indicates, tetrapods are four-limbed. They have four-limb, but not all tetrapods have limbs, but their ancestor is four-limbed organism, which is known as Acanthostega. So in this case, this is the figure of Acanthostega. So this figure shows how Acanthostega looks like. We can see this organism. It is similar with fish, except they have limb, and also the neck is different from fish. They have fish-like tail or fin. It is the common characteristics between Acanthostega and fish, but they have limb or four-limb instead of fin in the case of fish. So non-scaled top side. So እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው ስኬል አለው በት ስኬሉን ከፊሽ የሚለየው በጣም ሃርድ የሆነ ስኬል እንዳለው ነው። የራስ ቅርጹን በምናይበት ጊዜ ከፊሽ የተለየ ስትራክቸር አለው። እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው ሄድ ፓርት እንደሚታየው ከፊሽ በተለየ መልኩ ወይም ደግሞ ከአሳዎች በተለየ መልኩ ሰፓሬትድ የሆነ ኔክ ወይም ደግሞ ዲስቲንክት የሆነ ወይም ሰፓሬትድ የሆነ ኔክ አለው ማለት ነው። ከፊሾቹ ጋር ወይም ከአሳዎቹ ጋር የሚያመሳስለው ነገር ፊን ወይም ደግሞ የኋለኛው ካውዳል ፊን የምንለው አይነት ስትራክቸር ወይም ቴል አለው። ነገር ግን ሊምፕ አለው። ይሄ ኮመን የሚያደርገው structure ነው ማለት ነው። So it is different from fish. So the origin of tetrapod and their fish ancestor ስንል እንግዲህ Acanthostega is one of the common or the primitive tetrapod. We can compare fish or their ancestor of the primitive fish or the sorry አካንቶስቴጋ ከፊሾች ኢቮልቭ እንዳደረገ በዚህ ፊገር መረዳት እንችላለን። ስለዚህ ሎብፊንድ ፊሽ የምንለው ነው። ይህ ፊሽ ከአካንቶስቴጋ ጋር ወይም ደግሞ ኤርሊ አምፊቢያን ከምንላቸው ጋር ሪሌትድ የሆነ ወይም ተቀራራቢ ስትራክቸር አለው። ዊ ካን ሲ ሂር እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው ሊምፕ አለው። እዚህ ጋር ፊን የመሰለ ቢሆንም ነገር ግን ከሊምፑ ጋር ተመሳሳይ የሆነ ስትራክቸር አለው ማለት ነው። እዚህ ጋር እንደምንከታተለው so there are modifications or there are evolution during the evolution of this primitive fishapod or fish-like tetrapod. So limbs instead of fin, development of limb instead of fin, and also lung instead of gill. So to adapt or to survive in the dry land, they need to have lung and also kidney advancement, skeleton to support their body, and also to move on the dry land. They should modify their skeleton to move the dry land, and cornified skin, modified ear, and also these are the sense organs, and oral glands are also modified during the tetrapod, and egg and delicate larva also modified, or there is evolutionary change during the acanthostega or this primitive tetrapod. So this is here is the primitive tetrapod or acanthostega here, and also here is the fish or lobfinned fish or their ancestor, how they evolved from those fish. We can see and we can compare their morphology and also their structure, and their limb and fin is changed into what, or developed into what? Their limb and also their head structure most likely similar, and four limb are raised from 4 feet, or this is also there is a tail. We can compare here. እንግዲህ እዚህ ጋር ቪዲዮዎቹን በቀላሉ እንደምናያቸው ኮምፔር ማድረግ እንችላለን። ሌላው ሞዲፊኬሽን ምንድነው? ሊምፕ ነው ወይም ደግሞ this finger like structure ምንለው ነው። ይህ finger like structure ወይም ደግሞ ሊምፕ በጣም የተለየ ሞዲፊኬሽን ነው። ይህም ያመለክታል እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው ሊምፕ ኦርጋኒዝሙ ወይም አካንቶስቴጋ የብስ ላይ መንቀሳቀስ እንደሚችል ወይም ደግሞ ከአኳቲክ ኢንቫይሮንመንት በተለየ የብስ ላይ እንዲንቀሳቀስ ሞዲፋይ የተደረገ ስትራክቸር ነው ማለት ነው። ብዙ ጊዜ ወደ 5 ፊንገር ነው ያላቸው ኦርጋኒዝሞች፣ ነገር ግን እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው ወደ 8 የሚደርሱ ፊንገሮችን እናያለን ማለት ነው። this is also one modification. This is the fossil record. This is fossil record. So this acanthostega, these fossilized remains are generally well preserved, with the famous fossil with the significance of this species was discovered, founded by Jennifer A. Clark in East Greenland around in 1987. So fragments of the skull had been discovered in 1933 by Jenner Sepp and also by Eric Jalik. So those scientists discovered these fossil records. So 16 centimeter or 24-inch acanthostega had 8-digit finger, and also each hand, the number of digits on the feet is unclear, linked by webbing. It lacked wrist, and it was generally poorly adapted for working on land. it has a remarkable fish-like shoulder are four-limbed, so they have well-developed forelimb here. So the angle indicates that this forelimb is modified or serve as to support their body or their structure. You can see their finger or their digits. So the fossil record has been derived from this structure. Depending on this, we can conclude the limbs were evolved in the earlier part or earlier time. See here, this is also the skeleton of this Acanthostega. So the front limbs of Acanthostega could not bend forward at the elbow and therefore could not brought into weight bearing position. And also it is modified to swim, or it is modified to swim in the water before they transfer from water to the terrestrial. This is the head parts of Acanthostega. We can see the skeleton or the bones that supports their gill, and the gill has been changed into lung when they are evolved. And the typical tetrapod limb skeletons has been shown here. This is a figure. So this movement shows that Acanthostega, how they move or they swim slowly inside water because of they have no limb. So by using their they have no fin. So by using their limb, they can swim easily, or they can swim, but they are not fast as fish. So they are slow swimmer. You can see their movement here. So the scientists also find out different fossil records here, like the Cambodian fish, or the fossil of Cambodian fish. So this is also the fin or the structure of Cambodian fish. We can see here. And here is the teeth. So this teeth is also almost this Acanthostega evolve their teeth, and another predator species have well-developed teeth. And this Cambodian fish on the pectoral fin have spin here. This is the Cambodian fish. It is a very dangerous and very known predator. So they can predate the primitive tetrapods. Here is their teeth structure. They are powerful to catch their prey. Here is Acanthostega how dwell or how move on the bottom of the freshwater ecosystem, and they use the branch of plants or the dwelling plants for or it provides for the Acanthostega to keep themselves from the predator. So they are slow mover or slow swimmer. The predators can catch easily, like this. So this is a Cambodian fish capture or catch the Acanthostega. So they need to escape from their predator by hiding themselves to the bottom of the water or the bottom of the shallow water. by dwelling themselves, and they can move, and they can move by using their limbs. As you see here, they are protected by the branch of plants from the predator. And also they can use their mouths to catch small vertebrates or small organisms inside the water. Here is the Acanthostega, and also the predator fish find them. And the Acanthostega by themselves can feed on another organisms by using their strong teeth. So here they are hiding themselves, and they need to escape, or they need to raise their hand, or raise their head to respire. So it is the first time for these organisms are transferred from aquatic environment to the land or the terrestrial environment. So this is the footprint. This footprint was found in 1992 with 260 steps by an animal which put weight on the ground and moved right and left feet forward alternatively. So this is the footprint, serve as an evidence to recognize or to justify how those organisms has been transferred from aquatic to terrestrial land. So in this time, the organisms, or this Acanthostega, is migrated from the aquatic environment to the land, and they survive and they develop their characteristics to modify their physiology and to survive on the dry land. So the earliest known animal to walk upland, it is around 348 million years ago. So we can justify, or we can conclude those organisms or tetrapods. So tetrapod meaning, as the name indicates, four-limbed or four-footed organism. And historically, this organism has been applied to land vertebrate. We can say tetrapods, in the other name, land vertebrate. So organisms should be categorized under tetrapods are amphibian, reptile, bird, and mammals. So their ancestor is Acanthostega, or the earliest or the primitive tetrapod. So it is their primitive tetrapod. So tetrapod include many organisms that have four limbs, but there are some organisms that have no limb, but we call it tetrapod because their ancestor had four limbs. So this is evolutionary trend. So evolutionary lineage or cladogram. ይህ እንግዲህ እንደምናየው cladogram ወይም ደግሞ የኤቮሉሽነሪ ላይኔጃቸውን የሚያሳይ ቻርት ነው ወይም ደግሞ ግራፊካል ሪፕሬዘንቴሽን ነው ማለት ነው። ሶ እዚህ ጋር እንደምናየው እነዚህን አምፊቢያን ማማል የምናገኛቸው እንግዲህ ከዚህ ጋር ከምናየው ፓርት ነው ማለት ነው። ሌግ ኢቮልቭ ከተደረገ በኋላ ወይም ደግሞ ከፊሽ ራይዝ ከፊሽ ወይም ደግሞ ላይኔጃቸው ከፊሽ እንደመጣ የሚያሳየን ሌግን ኢቮልቭ ካደረጉ በኋላ አምፊቢያን ማማልስ እንደርሶ ቱስቲዲኔ የሚባሉ እነዚህ የላንድ ቨርተብሬት የምንላቸው ኢቮልቭ አድርገዋል ማለት ነው። ከዛ በፊት ያሉት የእያንዳንዱ ስትራክቸራቸው ፊዚዮሎጂያቸው አዳፕት ያደረጉት ወይም ደግሞ ሞዲፋይ የተደረገው ውሃ ውስጥ ለመኖር ውሃ ውስጥ ለመራባት ውሃ ውስጥ ፊዚዮሎጂ ወይም ሪስፓየር ለማድረግ ሞዲፋይ የተደረጉ ናቸው ማለት ነው። ነገር ግን ከኢግ ወይም ከሌግ ወይም ደግሞ ሊምፕ ሞዲፋይ ከተደረገ በኋላ ያሉ ኦርጋኒዝሞች ሁሉም በማለት ይቻላል ተርስተሪያል ላይ መኖር እንዲችሉ ተደርገው ኢቮልቭ የተደረጉ ወይም ደግሞ ሞዲፋይ ያደረጉ ኦርጋኒዝሞች ናቸው ማለት ነው። እዚህ ጋር እንደምንመለከተው it is the end of our topic. በቀጣይ ሌላ ፕሮግራሞችን ይዤ እቀርባለሁ። ለዛሬ ያየነው ቴትራፖድ ወይም ደግሞ ላንድ ቨርተብሬት ኢቮሉሽነሪ ላይኔጁን ምን እንደሚመስል አይተናል። ስለተከታተላችሁኝ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። እንግዲህ ከተመቻችሁ ቪዲዮውን ላይክ አድርጉ። እንዲሁም የተለያዩ ቪዲዮዎች ወይም ደግሞ ጠቃሚ የሆኑ ትምህርታዊ ቪዲዮዎች እንዲደርሳችሁ ቻናሉን ሳብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቀጣይ ኮንቲኒስ የሆነ ፕሮግራም ተከታታይ እንድትሆኑ በአክብሮት እጠይቃለሁ። ምናልባት አስተያየት ወይም ደግሞ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ በኮሜንት ላይ ወይም ደግሞ በአስተያየት መስጫው ላይ ጻፉልኝ። አመሰግናለሁ። መልካም ጊዜ